Hello and welcome to the Quarantined Wargamer. I'm Big Lee and today I want to talk about targets. So as I previously mentioned in some of my other videos, I've been an administrator for 30 odd years. I know a little bit about planning in a work environment. Now there's no reason why you can't take some of those skills and bring them into your hobby environment, particularly if you've got multiple objectives or multiple projects on at the same time. If you want to make the best use of your time, and frankly who wouldn't, then you could bring some of those work related skills into your hobby environment to make yourself more productive. Now businesses tend to look at different levels of planning, so that often companies will have a strategic plan, for instance, an overall objective. What is their ultimate goal, their mission statement if you like. They then have a tactical planning where they break down their activities into bigger smaller chunks that all contribute towards achieving that overall goal. Then they'll have the detailed action planning where they actually go through and break those chunks down into even smaller parts where they decide, right, what are the day-to-day activities, what order they need to be done in, and that sort of thing. And then finally, a good company or government will have contingency planning, something that I think has been woefully lacking in governments around the world recently, but we won't go there, that's politics. But contingency planning can also be is often used within companies and can be applied to your hobby environment as well. So within those categories I wanted to look at some different types of activities that we can do, certain planning tools that we can bring into the hobby environment. And it's worth saying, why do we want to set ourselves targets at all? Why do we want to do planning? Well, the simple fact of the matter is that when you're at work, you get set targets and deadlines because it helps to keep you focused and achieve something within a set amount of time. It keeps you productive. And there's no reason why we can't do that within our hobby environment as well. We have many of us anyway, have precious little hobby time as it is. Why waste it? Why squander it? Why not be more productive in that time? And so I would always advocate bringing those planning skills from the work environment into your hobby environment, particularly, as I've already mentioned, if you've got multiple tasks and projects on at the same time. It helps you to sort through the fog and get things done in the most timely manner in the right order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at just a few. This isn't an exhaustive list, but just a few techniques that you can use in your hobby planning. Now, as already mentioned, companies look at strategic planning. What are your overall goals? So that you can do the same for your hobby activities. What is your ultimate goal? Now, I'm not talking about your lifetime goal. I'm talking about, say, over the next 12 months. For instance, we're going to be putting on a demo game at a particular show in 6 months' time. That is our main objective. Our main mission statement, if you like, for that given period of time. So you know what your ultimate end point is, and now that you've decided what that is, you can break that down into all the tasks, the steps that you need to do to reach that overall strategic aim for your hobby. So first I want to discuss all the different types of planning and targeted work that I do and how I bring them into my hobby environment. And I find that they're needed because, particularly when I've got 101 things banging around the inside of my head competing for RAM space, these methods I use in work are just as applicable for when I'm trying to manage multiple projects in my hobby room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each of these in turn so that we can sort of look at the pros and cons and discuss how I use them, and you can see if that's something that maybe you find useful. Now, the most basic sort of planning you can do is a to-do list. Now, we've all done it before now. You make a list of things that need to be done and you tick them off as you do them. And it's as simple as that. They're not really detailed planning. It's just a list, an aid memoir that reminds you, right, I've got these 5 things to do. Tick, 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 tick. We probably all do them to a certain extent. Certainly I think it's an underused tool because, again, it helps you to make sure that you don't forget certain things, and also you can put that to-do list in the order of priority. So it's the first step towards planning what is important, what needs to be done first, what order the jobs need to be done in to achieve a particular objective. Another important tool that I think sometimes gets underused is a timetable or a calendar. Now, I use a calendar app on my phone. You could use whatever you have available. It could be just literally a calendar on the wall where you tick it off. I have one of those as well. It's a way of helping you to decide, right, how long have I got? When do things need to be achieved by? Because that can determine how far they are up on the priority list. So something may be a crucial task, but you've got more time to do it, you can leave it a little bit later so that you can do other more time critical stuff first. So a calendar app or a timetable or just a basic old fashioned paper calendar up on the wall, I find is very, very useful when you're juggling multiple tasks and multiple projects. Now, I find having a definite target date adds a little bit of internal peer pressure, if you like. It forces you to make something your priority on a particular time. It helps keep you honest in certain respects, because it's very easy to allow a project to go on a lot longer than it needs to. You set yourself a deadline, even if you don't have a hard and fast reason for doing it, like a show. At least a deadline gives you a point to focus on, and you can gauge yourself whether you've succeeded or failed very easily by whether you've met that objective. Obviously, being out by a day isn't too bad, but if things go on for weeks beyond that deadline, then you know that you need to tighten up. If your planning wasn't quite right, or maybe you've just allowed yourself to relax that deadline to the point where it becomes meaningless. Really, it depends on how internally organised you are. Now, I try to stick to deadlines as far as possible. I'm used to doing it in my work environment. I don't see any reason I should be different when I'm doing all the many hobby activities and projects that I'm doing at the same time. It's for me, it's all about keeping myself honest. Now, obviously, in this time of COVID-19, and particularly over the last couple of months, where most of us have been in one form of lockdown or another, and indeed in the coming months as things change and rules change, and we're all still trying to wrap our heads around all the different changes that are going on. Having fixed points like that really helps us keep on top of the productivity, helping us keep to a particular target. So a deadline, I find, is actually a really good marker of time, particularly in a period like now where most days of the week I don't even know what day it is. So I heartily recommend deadlines as a tool when you're doing your hobby activities. So, as already indicated, I find it very useful to have a deadline for different parts of a project, because you can plan your planning can work backwards from that target date. But ultimately, you need a target date for the finish of the whole project. So, for instance, I'm going to be painting a particular army. Now, I can break that down into sections. I'm going to do the cavalry or the infantry, or I'm going to whatever it might be. You break that project down into manageable chunks. You set individual deadlines for each of those stages, but ultimately you're working to an end date. In 6 months' time, I want to be here. And having a planned out schedule quite a long way in advance, I find is very useful, particularly if you've got more than one project or period on the go at a time. Again, it's all about keeping you honest, keeping you going when perhaps your energy levels flag, giving you that little bit of internal peer pressure that keeps you going. I also find it useful to have fixed schedules for those regular activities. So, for instance, posting the blog or posting these silly little videos. I have in the past, I admit, tended to post stuff as and when I felt like it. But I'm trying at the moment, particularly over the last few weeks, I've been trying to stick to a fixed deadline, because I just find it helps me organise and plan better. Because I know that, for instance, I'm going to publish this video 12 o'clock on a Friday, midday on a Friday. So all my planning runs back from that. Similarly, the things with posting stuff on my blog, I know I've got a main posting day and a supplementary posting day. I've got a particular time that I'll be working to, and obviously with things like blogs, I tend to be writing those weeks in advance, and I've got several drafts of different posts written up as I go along. When I start painting something, for instance, and I know, right, in a week's time or so, I'm going to be writing an article about and showing some pictures off of what I've just painted. I can start writing that article well ahead of time. I don't leave it until I finish painting the models, particularly during the painting challenge. During the winter months, I mentioned the challenge before. I set myself very strict deadlines. I've got lots of work to do, and I tend to be writing up my blog posts to do with the items that I'm going to be painting well ahead of actually doing the painting. I'll get something down, some outline of what that article is going to be, because I know that I'm going to have when I finish the models, I can get photographs and everything on there really quick. Now, when it comes to the painting challenge, you get a weekly deadline. You've got to get stuff in by a certain time, because that's when it's going to be judged. I'm trying to apply the same sort of principle to posting on my blog and various other things, because it gives you a fixed point, and as I've mentioned numerous times already, you can do all your planning backwards from that fixed point. So having a fixed schedule means that on any particular day, I generally know what I'm going to be doing. So I know, for instance, when doing these videos, that I'll be doing some filming on a Saturday and Sunday. I'll use my Monday or Tuesday to do any editing, and I usually have the film ready and scheduled for loading up onto YouTube by Thursday, well ahead of the 12 o'clock deadline on a Friday, because things can go wrong. And I'm already, before that week is even ended, I'm already working on scripts for 2 or 3 weeks later. So again, I'm working on the notes that I'm going to use for doing these videos. Yes, I do actually do some planning. I'm not just making it up as I go along. So I know that on any particular given day, I know roughly what I need to be doing. And the same applies to all the other activities that I'm doing. So I know that, for instance, on certain days I'm going to concentrate, I'm going to get painting done on that day, or I'm going to spend this day reading rules, or whatever it might be, writing something. So I've got lots of different activities. You're probably the same as me. I run a blog, do the YouTube videos, doing painting. I'm learning 2 or 3 different sets of rules. I'm trying to play some games. Got painting chat sessions going on. There's so many things going on. It's easy to lose track of it, and then before you know it, you've wasted a couple of weeks. And time is precious. I don't want to do that. I don't want to waste that time. I want to be as productive as I can be, just as I would be in work. Why should I do all my best work at work? Why not do that for my hobby as well? Now, I want to recommend a particular app that I actually find really useful. Google Keep. I don't know if you can see that on my screen. It's a really simple note-keeping process. You can do bullet lists. You can do you can draw pictures. You can write on there. It also works with the voice recognition software, so you can actually, for instance, when I'm doing the planning for these videos, I will often have a subject title, and then I'll just turn on the voice recognition app and just talk, let some ideas come out, and that forms the nucleus of the video that I'm then going to go on to do, because I'll expand on it. But the point is, I can get a lot of stuff written down really quickly that way. And I used the lists, for instance, for helping me do to-do lists, or keeping lists of things that I need to buy, or keeping track of what paint I've got, and so when stuff runs out, I can tick it off, and so on. When I run out of certain paints, it's a really good planning tool, I find, tied in with with the calendar app. It's a really good way of keeping organised. So there you have it, just a few simple ideas on how to plan and organise yourself. I hope you found that useful, and as always, I'd say to you, please, if you feel so inclined, please subscribe to my channel, and please, whatever you do, leave some comments. I'd love to hear from you. Do you think I'm talking a load of rubbish? Have you got some other ideas, some other suggestions? I mean, I'm always open to new ideas, so please let me know what you think, either here on YouTube, or go over to my blog, Big Lee's Miniature Adventures, and leave some comments there. So in the meantime, I'd just like to say thank you for watching, and I hope you're staying well and your family's well, and that you're managing through these difficult and strange times of all the different changes that are going on in social distancing and other rules. So look after yourself. See you again next week, and in the meantime, keep rolling high.